Welcome to the Winner Will podcast for athletes, parents, and coaches. I'm Giselle Kruger, creator and founder of the Winner Will, where we help elite student athletes perform under pressure in sport, school, and life. So in today's podcast, I'm joined by my guest, Anna Dunn. And Anna's an elite soccer player. From the moment I met her, it's been such a pleasure to get to know her, to work with her in the Winner Will, and to watch this young woman thrive in her life. So let me tell you a little bit about Anna before we begin our conversation together. Anna's in the Faculty of Kinesiology, Sport and Recreation at the U of A, and she'll be graduating in August with a Bachelor of Arts in Recreation, Sport and Tourism degree and a Peter Lougheed Leadership Certificate in Interdisciplinary Leadership Studies there. She'll be attending Trinity Western University to complete a 2-year after degree program in elementary education. And she's heading out there this fall. So a little bit about her as an athlete. She was a member of Team Alberta Soccer from 2011 to 2014. She was part of the Western Canada Summer Games team in 2015. She played in the Canada Summer Games team with them in 2017, and she was selected to the Canadian national team camp also in 2017. She was a member of the University of Alberta Panda varsity soccer team from 2016 to 2019. During that time, she was awarded the U of A Panda Soccer Rookie of the Year, and she was U Sport Academic All-Canadian. She was a top goal scorer for her team in 2018 and 2019, and she is super excited about joining the Trinity Western University Women's Spartan soccer team this fall. So that's a little bit about her accomplishments in academics and sport. But I want to say, as a young woman, Anna is kind, she's honest, she's feisty, and she's very smart, and yet always wanting to learn and get better. So Anna, welcome to the Winner Will podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. And as you know, the purpose of this podcast is to encourage and support and inspire elite athletes who want to become their very best, especially in pressure situations. So I'm really excited to have you on today, Anna, because you are that type of player who loves to work hard, and you just love to give everything you have on the field and do what it takes to win. So I'd like our listeners today to hear some of your story, because, I think you have a lot to offer. So let's start maybe overall. We'll kind of talk about kind of what it was like for you in the beginning of your elite athletic journey, and then what were some of maybe your obstacles that you've experienced along the way as you've developed into an elite soccer player. And then what are some of the things that you've done to overcome those obstacles? So why don't you start by telling us what it was like for you as a young developing athlete?
Yeah, so I started playing soccer at age 5. I have an older sister. She's 2 years older than me, and I actually got to play on Panda soccer with her for my 3 years. But yeah, I started at age 5. I would watch her before I was allowed to play because I was too young. I would go and watch her games, and I'd be dribbling up and down the sidelines with the ball whenever she was playing. So at that time, I started playing soccer just because I really loved it. And at that time, it wasn't about trying to make an elite team or a national team or go professional. I just wanted to have fun, and I loved it. And I played for my community soccer team until I was 7 years old, where then I joined my first club team. My dad coached me from the beginning of my soccer career until I was 16, and I was selected for Team Alberta 6 times and was invited to that one national team camp. So
it's really interesting too that your dad was your coach. He's an elite soccer player himself, and sports psychologist at the University of Alberta, and just a real, a wise man. And so what's that been like, being coached by your dad first, in your developmental years?
I know when I was younger, I had trouble seeing the difference between he was my dad and he was my coach. So sometimes I'd goof off in practices, and then he'd get mad at me, and I was like, what? Like, this is what we do at home. But as I got older, I started learning there's a difference between when I'm at soccer and when we're at home. And I got more serious and I matured, and um, I became like really grateful actually that he was able to coach me through my younger years, because at that time I was like, oh, like he's just picking on me sometimes and all this. But now that I'm older, I look back and I'm actually really thankful I had him, because he taught me so much, not only with soccer, but again, the mental aspect of sport. And
Yeah.
I think that really helped me.
That's a really neat experience to be coached by a parent, for sure.
Mhm.
So tell me a little bit about some of the maybe obstacles that you came up against in your developmental journey as an athlete, or even in the most recent years, as you've gone through, um, being a varsity athlete. And maybe it could be physical, mental, emotional, whatever, anything that comes to mind that you would like to share with the listener and think maybe this could help a young athlete in overcoming their obstacle.
Yeah. So I guess the first obstacle I really faced was in grade 7. I had a massive growth spurt. I was probably 5 feet, and over like 2 or 3 years, I got all the way up to 5'8". So I really, um, I really lost all my flexibility and my coordination. And I went from being really dominant, having this great ability, to I could play 2 years up, no problem. And I was the player who could, I was the one to go to.
Yeah.
I was really good, to the point where I could barely control my own limbs, to let alone to try and play soccer. I also developed Osgood-Schlatter's disease in my knees, which was really painful. And so basically I lost all my soccer ability, and it was something that was really frustrating and hard for me, because at that point I almost quit soccer, because I felt that I wasn't good enough. I had lost all my ability. So that was definitely a massive hump that I had to get over.
Yeah.
Um, I was cut from the older age group Alberta team. I tried out for the older age group in my first year, and I made that team. And then in my second year, I was actually cut and sent down to my own age group. So that was, I would say, it was a blow to my ego, in that I thought I was good enough, but I just at that age, maybe I wasn't as dominant.
Yeah.
And then another thing was really hard for me. When I got selected to the Western Canada Summer Games team, I didn't play very much, and I wasn't sure why I didn't play. And again, that was a pretty massive blow to my ego.
Yeah.
Um, and then I'd say the most recent um, obstacle that I've had to overcome was I didn't have an awesome relationship with everybody on my team when I played for a university varsity team. I didn't have a great relationship with everybody, and that was something that really affected me emotionally and mentally. And it made going to soccer practices and soccer games really hard. I would come home crying and upset from soccer, because of just not understanding what was going on and why I was being treated the way I was treated. So I would say those were the main obstacles, but pretty large obstacles that I.
Yeah, for sure. So what are some of the things that you've done that have clearly helped you overcome those things? Because here you are becoming a part of probably the best team, one of the best teams in the country.
Mhm.
And so what sort of things have you done and you know created kind of that space for yourself to work on these things?
Yeah, I would say so. With my growth spurt, I had to stop. I had to learn to stop expecting perfection from myself and learn how to use my body again. So it was back to basics. It wasn't about doing the most skilled moves and everything like that. It was more about, okay, this is how you pass a soccer ball. This is how you dribble a soccer ball. It was really difficult for me, and it took a lot of patience with myself because
Yeah.
I'm somebody who I expect perfection from myself every time.
Yeah.
But learning that, you know what, I have to learn how to use my body again. And I'm not going to be perfect every time. That was something that was really huge that helped me overcome my growth spurt and has definitely helped me later on in life. When I was cut from that older age group on the Alberta team, when I went down to my own age group, I played really well. And in that sense, I felt that I had failed in not making the older age group, but I didn't let failure get me down, but instead I pushed through with the attitude that I'm going to show everybody that, you know what, I was good enough to play. And I guess that that attitude has kind of continued to stick with me in that if someone doesn't think I'm good enough and or I failed or anything like that, I go on with the attitude that, okay, you know what, I am good enough. I am going to show you that I can play where I am. So, and I definitely still use that at this age now. Um,
Yeah, I
and
have to say that's one thing. When I first met you, I saw that grit, that kind of, I would say, a pretty secure level of confidence in you that, that really showed, that you did believe in yourself, and you had that sense of, I know who I am, I know what I have to give, and I'm going to give it. So that's what I noticed in our first kind of meetings, is a young athlete who's really done a lot of work to believe that. And I think that's such a big part of, really reaching your full potential.
yeah,
So, yeah, so well done on that, because there's so many things that can take us out of sport, isn't there?
oh
Like,
yeah,
okay, and then what about recently, like just the last, obstacle there that you mentioned, last
yeah,
couple years?
yeah. With struggling with on my varsity team, I think really the winter will was actually probably the thing that got me through what I was going through on that team. I learned a lot about ego, and I learned that really from you that just learning to be authentically me, don't change me, no matter what people say about me or anything like that. Truly being myself is that's where I'm going to find the most comfort, and that's where I'm going to be at my best and play at my best. And even in life, that's where I'm at my best, is when I'm myself and not trying to be somebody else. Even if other people tell me, you know what, you are not good enough, or you need to change this, or you need to change that. I think from you learning that, you know what, it's good to be yourself. That's what makes you you, and that's what makes you the best player that you can be. I would say that was the big thing that got me through the obstacles that I faced most recently.
Yeah. And I would say our work together, you were very open to, though, to hear the truth about your part in some of those things, which I was most kind of excited for you, and impressed with, your ability to hear that. And because some, I mean, nobody has no part. You know what I mean? Everyone, if there's a conflict, everyone has a part. And you were just really open to hearing your part and working through it, and, deciding, like, how important is it to me, to make these changes, and you did it. And then when it still wasn't really working for you, you made some tough choices, of, um, choosing the best for you. And I think that was where, wow, I think you really, um, just went to another level of confidence, went to another level of deciding, like you said, to be your true self. And I think it's really exciting, to watch you now and thrive, and maybe talk a little bit about, um, just finding that place of, like, you got, I don't know if I'm saying this name right, but Bellamy.
Yes. Yeah.
And, and really, and you can explain what that, what that is. But,
Yeah.
yeah. And just the things that make your heart come alive, and deciding, who do I really want to be, and what is this all about? And now moving and transitioning into this new opportunity and exciting adventure you're going on.
Yeah. So with soccer, I think one of the things that makes me the best player that I am is I play I play on the edge. I'm definitely edgy is a great way to describe me.
Yeah.
I'm super competitive, and I care a lot about every play in the game and every person on my team. I care so much, and I know that not everybody liked the fact that I played on the edge, because sometimes it would be perceived as, oh, she doesn't have emotional control. Oh, I'm somebody who's a liability on the field. But what I learned was that if I didn't play like who I was, I
Mhm.
wasn't the same player.
Mhm.
So, in choosing to not continue with the varsity team that I was on, it was about me not being able to be who I was on the team. And I'm not nearly as effective if I'm not myself. So being edgy, that's what makes me a great player. And deciding that, you know what, maybe this isn't the right team for me. Maybe this isn't the right place for me to continue growing and learning. It was a really difficult decision, because,
Mhm.
I have best friends on the
Mhm.
team, and I did have a great experience. I love the school, but it came to the point where what was best for me wasn't staying there. And yeah, difficult decision, but in the end, when I now look back at it after I made it, it was super hard at the time, but now I look back and I know I made the right decision for me.
Mhm.
And then yeah, so this year I haven't played. Um, I didn't play in U Sports. I was just kind of playing with my club team. So I ended up adopting or fostering a service dog. So we got her as a puppy. So this is Bellamy. We got her as a puppy. And she was only, I want to say 15 weeks old. And I have no idea what I was getting into. My family has never had a dog, but I somehow convinced my parents, please, can we get her? It definitely helped showing pictures of her. She's a little yellow lab. And what was really important to me, and a lot of people ask me, well, you have to give her up in the end, because we're only fostering her for a year. And what was really the biggest question was, how are you going to give her up? And for me, the big thing was, you know what? Yeah, I love her to death. I yeah, I love her so much, and she means so much to me. But in the end, I'm not somebody who needs her. I don't need a service dog. I would love to keep her, but it was thinking about, you know what? She's going to go to some child or some adult, somebody. She's going to go to somebody and change their life.
Yeah.
And I think that was the biggest thing has that was made me able to let go
Mhm.
and willing to take her in, even though I had to give her back.
Oh, that is a really great story.
Hmm.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so you've done a lot of work, Anna, in overcoming these obstacles, and I think it just sets you up for life, doesn't it? Like in
Mhm.
terms of, um, you know, because life on life's terms, you're going to always be dealing with things, and how do you have that difficult conversation? How do you, really look at yourself and own your part? How do you move toward what it is that makes you and stick to that? Those are not easy things. And I guess I just want to say, the reason why we're even having this conversation, the reason why we're on this podcast today is because I've just watched you do the work, and you're just such a great example for young athletes who are going to have their struggles and their obstacles and their situations. But hopefully your, courage and just kind of the hard work you've done will encourage some young person, who
Yeah.
is wanting to be great too. Not just a great soccer player, but, to be just a good person, and to be not only a good person, but to be the person you're meant to be. And so, yeah, I've just watched you do that and grow in that. And it's pretty exciting to see where you're at now. What would you, tell your 14-year-old self now, given what you know now today, after everything you've been to, and look back at that little girl who was growing and changing and having a growth spurt? What would you tell her now?
I think the biggest thing, it's a quote my dad used to always say to me, is you can't control the wind, but you can adjust your sails.
Mm.
So really what that's saying is focus on what you can control and not on what you can't. And I think that was also a lot of the work we did together. Was some of this stuff is completely out of my control. I can't control what my coach's decisions are. I can't control my playing time. I can't control the referee's calls. I can't control if the opponent is trash talking me. I can't control when I get injured, but I can control my preparation. I can control my attitude, my effort, my behavior, and my willingness to continue to learn and grow and receive feedback. So looking back, and if I were able to tell my 14-year-old self something, it would be focus on what you can control and not on what you can't, because the stuff you can control, that's what's going to make the difference in the end, and that's what's going to make you great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
That's good advice to your little girl.
Yes.
Right on. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share that would be beneficial for a young developing athlete? Any other words of wisdom that you'd like to give these young athletes that are wanting to become better at what they're doing?
Yeah, I guess I've got a couple things. Well, the main thing I think it would be is don't let anyone tell you that you can't do something or you can't be something or someone. As an elite athlete, you're going to have people that tell you you can't do something, that you're not good enough, you're not strong enough, you're not fast enough, you can't hit the ball hard enough. There's going to be time and time again that somebody's going to tell you that. And really, what I would say is the biggest thing that made me successful is turning that negative feedback into something positive. Use this as your motivation. You know what? I am good enough. I'm going to show you that I am good enough. I can do this. And really, you can do anything when you put your mind to it and you're passionate enough and you love it. So don't let people stop you from having these big dreams or achieving the success that you want. And then another thing that I think that I learned really the most with you was that as one door closes, so maybe you get cut from a team, maybe you leave a team, something doesn't work out, there's always another one that opens. And you may not see it, and it may not open immediately after you've been cut or after this door is closed, but it will come, and really it will lead you to even greater things. I truly believe that. And yeah, talking with you, the ability to say no and to listen to your own heart is something that I wish I knew when I was a lot younger, and I wish I knew when I was a young developing athlete. Is it's okay to say no, and it's okay to follow your own heart, because you're listening to yourself, and you're truly being yourself. You're not being somebody else. And the most important thing is you, and that you have to look after yourself and you have to show yourself love, because that's what's going to make you great.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That is some good advice to these young athletes. And it's so true what you said. I always think, man, life on life's terms, like we're given cards, a hand has been dealt to us in many regards, if you look at that that analogy. But I always think there's always more cards coming, And it's like always looking for that new card that's coming, and what's that going to do and how's that going to change things. So that's so great that you've taken that. And well, I'm very excited about your next adventure, and I'm sure you and I will keep in touch, and I'll hear all about what it's like living out in Langley and out in BC, and in that beautiful climate, and at a great university, Trinity Western. So all the best to you, Anna, as you move on to this next adventure. And just thank you so much for giving your time today and just sharing your heart and telling our young athletes kind of a bit of your story. So thank you so much for being here today.
Of course, and thank you so much for all the work you've put in with me. I know I probably wasn't the easiest person to work with, but I think you've helped me grow not only as an athlete, but in life and as a person in general. I've grown so much from working with you. So thank you.
Thanks. Well, thank you. And it's just been such a pleasure to work with you. So know that. And just want to also just thank our listeners today. And if you like this podcast and have someone you want to share it with, feel free to do that. So thank you for listening today.